Smart apartments are the rage in upscale rental properties, and tech like AV, kitchen connectivity, and extensive lighting and shade control is on the rise in luxury rental and condo properties alike. But what about tech for more modestly priced or even affordable rental property units? We had a chance to check in with two tech thought leaders in those markets and got the skinny on eminently practical in-unit tech that solves problems and saves money for both renters and operators. Kate Good is partner and senior vice president of multifamily development with Huntington Residential, a division of Huntington Properties. Kate also consults and trains on sales and marketing in the real estate industry. For Huntington Residential, she is the tech visionary.
With Huntington Residential, we're based in Houston, Texas. We're primarily known as a retail developer, but we started a multifamily division 7 years ago. And we're building garden style apartment communities and also have some wrap product in the metropolitan areas. And our newest project is a mixed use micro project, and that's in our urban neighborhoods.
And so has technology been an ingredient in your units since the get-go 7 years ago when you started in the multifamily space?
Not inside the apartments, no.
So where are you now, though?
We ventured into having the keyless entry and programmable thermostats and Wi-Fi thermostats, and also in bulk internet buys.
And give me some of the thinking around the package that you're offering these days.
So our approach was to think about how we could offer a lot of value to our customer. With our mixed-use micro project, it really can't be top of the market rents. It's got to be a 100% value-driven purchase. You're getting less square footage, and for that price, you want to pay less and you want to get more. And so what we had to really think about was where was our biggest bang for the buck? And people love the simplicity of controlling everything on their smartphone and having the ability to let their guests enter on their smartphone, issue a guest pass, let their dog walker in, ease with package delivery, and the keyless entry went right along with that. In fact, it really kind of drives the whole system. We also like the security measures that are built into that with cameras in those locks. And we also like the ability to load multiple things on that app and make it more elegant as we move forward and we add new technologies to the property.
What about operating expense savings for you all?
It's been really important to take a look at that. Everything seems to have a per unit price tag on it. Those things really add up. And believe it or not, micro rents mean kind of a micro budget too. So we had to be really careful about what we were taking on a month by month basis. So our focus in 2021 is to really find technologies that help solve operating issues. So are there ways to be more efficient with our energy? Are there ways to be more efficient with our team members, with our time? Is there things that we can do to really fine tune that and make sure that we're operating at the peak level when it comes to our operating budgets?
So does that mean some new feature sets in 2021 or new products being added to the ecosystem, or maybe a backbone that's a platform to manage the operating expense component?
We're working on all of that. I think our biggest jump in 2021 is going to be concierge package delivery instead of a package room. That will 100% save our team members time and give an extra value to our residents too.
What about integration? It sounds like access control is part of the unit mix. What about integration with other access elements?
Yeah, it's a total package system for us. We are in an urban area and we have multiple entrances. We've got to be really tight with our access to the building. And so we're using a video butler to enter our leasing office on the first floor. And the butler will usher you into the elevator and take you up to the 6th floor where our leasing office is. And we put our leasing office on the 6th floor because it's got an amazing view of the city. So it was really important to us because we know that's really going to help us lease apartments. The other thing that we wanted to make sure we were doing is integrating our parking deck and the idea that that parking deck services our retail and our apartments. And so by having the app, we could designate spaces that will actually change their purpose depending on the hour of the day. So when the restaurants close, that would mean it could be public parking for the area bars and restaurants that are still open in the neighborhood. And our neighborhood is in desperate need of parking. So we can monetize our parking deck right now because we've got a very elegant app system that enables us to do that.
Tell me a little bit more about this video butler. So is there somebody at a central monitoring station that's escorting folks through the building as they pass through different video zones?
It's really quite simple. It's a video that screen that connects with our leasing consultants on the top floor, much like we do from our computers right now when we FaceTime people. And we can greet them. I like to have that personal contact and that ability to say hello right when they come in the door. And then welcome them, tell them exactly what they're going to do. They're going to get in the elevator. The elevator during office hours only goes directly to our office. The other two elevators in the building are for residents use throughout the day and night. This one's just for leasing during office hours. And then when the elevator opens up, it's right at our leasing office. And so we can be out of our chairs and greeting them right at the elevator.
So how did you devise that solution? Was that your idea there at Huntington, or was that brought to you by an integrator partner?
Yeah, it was my vision, but I had absolutely no idea how I was going to pull it off. So the first thing that I did was I went to our elevator vendors and I chose a vendor that would be able to give me the specific details that I need within the programming of the elevator. And then from there, our technology group was able to link it to a video system that would work in connecting the 6th floor leasing office with the 1st floor leasing office.
You're a third-party technology integrator for all of your properties?
Yes. And they're the group that has created our resident app and is integrating all the parking for our parking deck, guest parking, retail parking with the app and the keyless entry.
And what does the collaboration look like? How long have you been working with these folks? How early in the process is you're developing properties? Are they brought in? How are they making you aware of new technology feature sets that you might include?
I really rely on my technology group to tell me what's possible, to show me what's cool and what other people are doing that we might want to look into. I always position myself with my vendor partners as I am the developer that doesn't want to put any limits on you. And I'm probably the one that's going to say yes when you bring me that cool idea that no one else will take a shot at. I want to take a shot at it and see how we can make it work. I'd love to be that trendsetter.
Yeah. How often do you meet with them to vision on the future?
We meet with our technology group on a regular basis, probably once a month, to kind of look where we are in our projects. And the conversation always moves into what more can we do? What's coming next? Gosh, should we put that on the board for our next project? Can we get it into this project? But I'll tell you, any day of the week, we could be texting each other with an idea, or they'll send me something to look at. And that could be on a Sunday afternoon or a Monday morning. When we run across the idea, we just have that really great sense of collaboration.
And how do you, in partnership with them or otherwise, assess results? How do you evaluate the success of some of these ideas?
We really pride ourselves on 5-star reviews from our residents. And we are always pushing for those reviews, asking for the reviews, asking for feedback. We have a lot of mechanisms to do that. We find residents will give us specific things that they love about the property, and anything that we can do to really ease their lives, solve problems in their life, always pops up in our reviews. Very rarely are they going to comment on stainless steel appliances or the swimming pool. What they're going to comment on is usually our people first, and then the ease of life at our community. It's really important to me to be checking in with my operations team on a regular basis. I want to make sure that those decisions that I made on the development end are working, that they like it. Is there anything that they would change? And so they're very much a part of the collaboration. And many times they give me ideas for what problems they would like to see solved. And I think that's always our mission, is how can we use technology to solve problems?
Ray Kuniansky is Chief Development Officer at Columbia Residential. an integrated real estate company with a focus on mixed finance, multifamily rental properties. Columbia was founded in 1991 in Atlanta, Georgia, with a focus on low-income housing tax credit properties. It now owns and manages more than 6,400 units in 50 properties in 4 states, of which 17 properties are for seniors.
So Columbia Residential is a affordable housing developer, and we predominantly utilize the low-income housing tax credit program as our primary financing source. With that program, are rules that are generated each year by each state that you are developing in, and they have different requirements for different things. Energy efficiency has been a huge issue in the affordable housing program now for probably 15 years. As a result, the majority of the technological things that we deploy have a lot to do with energy efficiency, more so than creature comforts, so to speak. You know, we're not big users of the electric window shades that you can move up and down by your telephone or things like that. Some people get into that, and that's more of a market-driven thing. Our technology is really related to driving the cost to operate the unit down for the resident as part of the affordability factor, making it more financially feasible for low to moderate income residents. So, you know, we get into things like ERVs and high efficiency exhaust fans in bathrooms to remove moisture because of the issues that moisture causes inside the unit. We have been working with bringing outside air into the units to create a more efficient atmosphere within the inside of the unit now for, 10, 12 years. So that's primarily the focus.
What kind of net benefits? You've got a good long track record now. Have you been able to track the cost savings that you've been able to realize for your residents?
Yes, about 5-6 years ago, we started doing studies on utility costs because, you know, we are also saddled with a utility allowance as part of the program to get rent subsidy and such. And so if we can prove that the unit is more efficient, we can lower the rent, the utility allowance, which comes out of the rent payment. And if we can lower the utility allowance, it increases the rent that's available for us to use to operate the property. So yes, we have done studies on that and have proven, depending upon the individual's personal use, that people are saving anywhere from $18 to $32 a month on utility expenses by us utilizing many of these things inside the unit.
And are you realizing operating expense savings for the building as a whole as well? Because you're operating as well as developing the properties, correct?
Yeah. Yes, we see some minor operational issues. The majority of the benefit that we see from the added things that we put into the construction really specifically relates to the tenant and the tenant usage. And that has a lot to do with, you know, we don't have a whole lot of common areas. We have leasing centers, we have business centers, we have fitness centers and things like that. But they represent a small, you know, that might be a total of 8,000 square feet in a 180,000 square foot facility. Hallways, we tend to do open breezeway structure so that they're not conditioned spaces and things like that. So yeah, usually the real benefit goes to the resident, which is a huge piece of the puzzle in solving affordability for the individual. I also wanted to add to the earlier question that in the last few years, we have started moving toward utilizing key fob lock systems, door entry systems, and things like that that are connected to the overall controlled access structure for the whole property. And we're finding that to be a really nice benefit, not just for the resident, but for us as the owners.
So what sort of tweaks and evolution do you see happening for you on the tech front in the next year or two?
As the tech world itself gets better at this, And as you well know, the tech world changes about every 30 minutes. We're seeing things that might make sense for our properties. Again, I think the biggest issues that we face over the next few years relate to security and continued improvements in the energy efficiency world. And we are seeing products coming out that are even better than the products we have used in the past.
What about air quality?
Well, yes, air quality is huge. And I mentioned the fact that we do a lot of work with the whole movement of air inside a unit and inside air, outside air, and the combination of the two, and reducing humidity and so on and so forth. And we already deploy a lot of mechanisms that are oriented that way. That has a lot to do with the fact that we certify every property that we build under some energy efficiency program, whether it's the local one, like in the Southeast, Earthcraft is a very popular program, or it's some of the national ones, the National Green Builders Association or Enterprise Green Communities or LEED. We certify every property that we build and have for the last 13 or 14 years.
Do you see the potential for new incentives for innovation arriving with the new administration?
We hope so. We've been at this now for years. Our company started doing Energy Star appliances, for example, over 20 years ago. Those types of things are typically required at the state level through the low-income housing tax credit program, so they become something that we are highly interested in. Solar, I think, is a great example. We have deployed solar technology in a handful of properties, but it has a 40-year payback typically. So the only way that really works is to bring it to scale. And the only way that's going to ever get to true scale is by pushing some form of incentive, a tax break, something to drive the cost down as we're all figuring it out. Where we have utilized solar, which typically relates to common area stuff for us, we found it to be, a very good mechanism to help lower our costs. But it only works when you can get a subsidy on the front end. And as solar becomes more popular and is produced at a greater rate, that'll bring the cost down. I mean, that story.
What about in the longer run, healthy living and affordable housing? And I'm thinking about things like telehealth and potentially nutrition, right? We've got a whole set of information tools now that can come into the kitchen and help people eat more healthy and be more healthy because of that. Is that someplace where Columbia might play in time? Maybe it's not a 2-year window, but farther out.
That's also a really good question. And we've actually stuck our toe in the water in that arena from time to time. Several of the qualified plans that govern the tax credit program require that you put in community gardens, for example. We, of course, did it because it was the way you got scoring and you got access to the tax credit. What we saw was that no one was using it. And so for years, we had all these properties with these, very fancy raised bed community gardens and such, but people weren't using it. So we decided to invest a little money and bring in a third-party gardening expert to work with residents to get them involved in gardening. And what we found is that at many of our senior properties, for example, people got very interested in it, and they actually started utilizing the raised bed gardens and growing their own vegetables and sharing those vegetables and sort of creating an internal community co-op based on what people were growing and producing. It's kind of a property to property thing. Some of the senior properties, it's like nobody really cares, and some of them, everybody wants to be involved, and the next thing you know, you have a huge garden growing.
On the telehealth front, do you foresee a day when maybe some of your shared space is dedicated to a telehealth node where there's high quality audio and video for diagnostic purposes, and maybe even devices hooked into that system for blood pressure and other sort of monitoring sort of diagnostics. Is that something that's even on your technology roadmap?
We are already subject to an awful lot of regulatory stuff that creates a lot of cost to develop what we're developing.
Yeah.
The more the more cash you have to put into developing it, the more subsidy you need because you've got a fixed rent stream to operate it. And so I think that is going to depend a lot on how that's going to be paid for. Something I just thought about that is true in Georgia. Georgia, for senior properties in particular, had a requirement that you put in a wellness center, which fundamentally is an exam room and an office space for a doctor to use. And then we have, in some cases, found doctors that we could establish relationships with who come to the site and offer exams and other health and wellness programs for our residents. And we built a dedicated space for that purpose.
For years, Tech was the new kid on the block in new single-family home and multifamily construction, and it hung its hat on gee-whiz gadgetry to get attention. As Tech matures, it's also becoming more practical, solutions-oriented, and able to penetrate all markets, including the affordable space. Another lesson learned: when you are thinking tech, don't just think high-end. It's a lesson Kate Good, Ray Kuniansky, Huntington, and Columbia have learned well.